Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti HABIBAH binti ZAKARIA. I'm from M3AT2233A with matric number 2021474198. I would like to present Chapter 4, which is Demand Forecasting in a Supply Chain. There are 4 outlines for this chapter. First, the role of forecasting in a supply chain. Second, the components and method of a demand forecast. Third, historical demand data using time series methodologies. And fourth, measure forecast error. Before we proceed to the outline, first we need to know what is demand forecasting. Demand forecasting involves interpreting information from the past and our experience to forecast demand in the future. Planning is essential for making deliveries in a timely manner and meeting future demands. Plans for capacity and other resources might be made once a demand projection is in hand. The rules of forecasting in the supply chain. Demand forecasts form the basis of all supply chains planning, used for both push and pull processes. For push processes, a manager must plan the levels of activity, be it production, transportation, or any other planned activity. For pull processes, a manager must plan the levels of available capacity and inventory but not the actual amount to be executed. In both instances, the first step a manager must take is to forecast what customer demand will be. The examples in roles of forecasting in a supply chain, we have production such as scheduling, inventory, aggregate planning. Second, marketing such as sales force allocation, promotion, and new production introduction. Third, finance such as equipment investment, budgetary planning. Fourth, personnel such as workforce planning, hiring, and layoff. Characteristic of forecast. First, forecasts are always inaccurate and should thus include both the expected value of the forecast and a measure of forecast error. To understand the importance of forecast error, consider 2 car dealers, which is car dealer A and car dealer B. Car dealer A expects sales to range between 100 and 1,900 units, while car dealer B expects sales to range between 900 and 1,100 units. Even though both dealers anticipate average sales of 1,000, the sourcing policies for each dealer should be very different given the difference in forecast accuracy. Thus, the forecast error is a key input into most supply chain decisions. Unfortunately, most firms do not maintain any estimate of forecast error. Long-term forecasts are usually less accurate than short-term forecasts. That is, long-term forecasts have a larger standard deviation of error relative to the mean than short-term forecasts. Third, aggregate forecasts are usually more accurate than disaggregate forecasts, as they tend to have a smaller standard deviation of error relative to the mean. In general, the farther up the supply chains a company is, the greater is the distortion of information received. There are 6 components of forecast. First, past demand. Second, lead time of product replenishment. Third, planned advertising or marketing effort. Fourth, planned price discount. 5th, state of the economy. 6th, action that competitors have taken. Method of forecasting are classified according to the following four types. First, qualitative. Qualitative forecasting methods are primarily subjective and rely on human judgment. They are most appropriate when little historical data are available or when experts have market intelligence that may affect the forecast. Such method may also be necessary to forecast demand several years into the future in a new industry. Second, time series. Time series forecasting method use historical demand to make a forecast. They are based on the assumption that past demand history is a good indicator of future demand. These methods are most appropriate when the basis demand pattern does not vary significantly from one year to the next. These are the simplest methods to implement and can serve as a good starting point for a demand forecast. Third, causal. Causal forecasting method assumes that the demand forecast is highly correlated with the certain factor in the environment such as the state of the economy, interest rate, and many more. Causal forecasting method find this correlation between demands and environmental factors and use estimate of what environmental factor will be to be forecast future demand. For example, product pricing is strongly correlated with demand. Companies can thus use causal method to determine the impact of price promotion on demand. Fourth, simulation. Simulation forecasting method imitates the consumer choice that give rise to demand to arrive at a forecast. Time series method for forecasting are categorized as static and adaptive. First, for static method, a static method assumes that the estimate of level, trends, and seasonality within the systematic component do not vary as new demand is observed. In this case, we estimate each of these parameters based on historical data and then use the same value for all future forecasts. Second, adaptive method. The estimates of level, trends, and seasonality are updated after each demand observation. The main advantage of adaptive forecasting is that estimates incorporate all new data that are observed. We now discuss a basic framework and several methods that can be used for this type forecast. Last outline for this chapter is measure of error. Managers use error analysis to determine whether the current forecasting method is predicting the systematic component of demand accurately. For example, if a forecasting method consistently produces a positive error, the forecasting method is overestimating the systematic component and should be corrected. Next, all contingency plans must account for forecast error. Consider a mail order company with two suppliers. The first is in the Far East and has a lead time of 2 months. The second is local and can fill orders with 1 week's notice. The local supplier is more expensive than the Far East supplier. The mail orders company wants to contract a certain amount of contingency capacity with the local supplier to be used if the demand exceeds the quantity the Far East supplier provides. The decision regarding the quantity of local capacity to contract is closely linked to the size of the forecast error with a 2-month lead time.